All right, good. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Pinal Partnership's November breakfast. We're probably all wishing that we were in some dining hall somewhere enjoying someone else's cooking, but you get to do your own today again. We hope that'll end one of these days soon. Today's meeting is somewhat a bittersweet meeting for many of us who've known this group of supervisors for many years, especially the last 8 years, as they provided the leadership and the vision that have taken Pinal County into areas that I suspect many of us never dreamed that we could attain, but these men did, and they were the nucleus that put so many things together and have kept it going, and have kept pushing and shoving and telling us that these things could be done, and gosh, they did it. And that's what's amazing about this particular group. So we're going to get to enjoy conversations with them. We'll get to meet some new people coming in who will attempt to fit into those shoes. So it's going to be a really enjoyable meeting this morning. Real quick before we start, just a couple of business items. I want to remind people that if you're not a member, there's 235 of you on this Zoom call this morning. And I hope every one of you are members. It benefits not only your business and what you're doing in the county, but it certainly benefits the partnership and how we can promote and push the things that are of interest to you and your business. We have some renewing members in the platinum category, Central Arizona College, and in the silver category, Landmark Title Agency and Alluvian Communications. Our next breakfast is one of the more popular ones. I used to be able to say that, but this one I think is turning out to be the most popular. But normally it's the Elliott Pollock breakfast in December, and it's December the 4th, so it's going to come real quick. So you need to get in and get a link to that and register today if you can. We also would be looking for sponsorships of that breakfast if you're interested in doing that. And we want to thank Pinal County for sponsoring today's breakfast, and we're always appreciative of that. So without any further ado, let me introduce the panel, and starting with Pete Rios, the Vice Chairman from District 1. Hi, Pete. Supervisor Mike Goodman in District 2. And we have in District 3, Steve Miller. The chairman of the board of supervisors in District 4, Anthony Smith, and in District 5, Supervisor Todd House. And we're joined then by our moderator, Jordan Rose, who will lead a hearty discussion, I'm sure. Jordan?
Thank you, Harold. And I really couldn't be more honored to get to moderate this panel. Some of the greatest things I can remember doing in my professional career, I think I've done with the leadership of the 5 of you, and I respect all of you so much. So thank you for letting me moderate. This really is actually a real privilege. So let's talk. I want to go around the horn, and I think we'll ask some broad questions, and then maybe we'll have some questions from the audience. Please feel free to put it in the chat. But I want to start with Chairman Smith, and I want to talk a little bit about the word that most characterizes your tenure. Okay, I just maybe a sentence, a word, something that you think is your style or what have you. And Chairman Smith, we're going to start this off a little slow and we'll build. So, all right, Chairman Smith.
Well, quite a bit of the times I get feedback that probably I'm not the most exciting type of speaker, but I'm the most steady. Steady leadership is probably what a lot of times I get compliments back that that's what I bring to the table, steady leadership.
I agree with that. You are very steady. I wouldn't agree with you're not the most exciting. I think you've got a lot of excitement, but the steady is certainly something we've all appreciated. So Vice Chairman.
I keep it under wraps really well.
That's great. That's great. Vice Chairman Rios. Oh, you're on mute.
You're still on mute.
Oh, you're still on mute.
How about now?
Yep, you're good. You're good.
Okay. In terms of what I hear from folks, a phrase I think kind of describes my tenure the most, not only as a supervisor, but as a state senator as well. And the phrase that a lot of people use with me is, you're the salt of the earth. You know what you're doing. You have a lot of resiliency, and I appreciate that.
I think that's right. And what a cool combination of the steady and the salt of the earth that we've had for leadership here, and that's it's pretty awesome. So, thank you, Supervisor House. Oh, you are also on mute. But while he fixes his, maybe we'll go over to Supervisor Goodman. What do you got? I think Supervisor House, you may have an audio issue, which I had too. So you may want to try to call in on your phone to talk. Try that. Okay, Supervisor Goodman. Oh my.
It looks like it's just the two
right.
of us.
Boy.
Well, we got Miller.
If we have last man standing here. All right, Supervisor Miller, you try it. Supervisor Goodman, you're having a similar audio issue. I think I had this exact same thing, so I don't know if it's, I thought it was peculiar to me, but maybe it's this Zoom. Call in on your phone and use your phone while we can still see you. Okay, Supervisor Miller, what's your word? Or we could try to lip read here.
I think mine would be consistency. You know, I don't deviate from my stance and my positions, and whether you agree with me or disagree with me, you probably already know how I'm going to vote. So I'm pretty consistent, and I that has paid dividends in all my political life. So that's what I would use for my name and or phrase.
Like that, very consistent. I agree with that. Very consistent, and I think everybody shares the integrity. Supervisor Goodman, it looks like you may have gotten your audio back, although it's on mute. So push unmute. Let's see if we can hear you.
Hey, Jordan, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Well, you know, sometimes this modern technology is a little bit difficult to deal with, and especially this morning, I have a few challenges, but I'd be more than happy to answer the question. You know, I think the best word that describes what I feel like is accomplishment. We have been able to, with the leadership of this group of 5 individuals, accomplish a lot that people never even thought that we would be able to get to, and we set a precedence we set a pretty high bar for the future supervisors to try and keep up with and keep the accomplishments coming in, and I couldn't be more proud of what we've been able to accomplish over the last 8 years.
Amen, amen. And actually, I think after we talk to Supervisor Goodman, I'll turn to accomplishments, because I'd like us to talk about those specifically. Supervisor Goodman, word to describe you. You got to push unmute. I think the word to describe all supervisors is technologically very savvy. Me too. I'm putting myself in that category. The whole panel today, except Miller and Rios and Smith. All right. What do you got? Yeah. Maybe Melissa, you can try to help Supervisor Goodman maybe get on the phone offline here and try to help him to be heard. Okay. Well, so while we figure that out, you get it? Okay, he's figuring it out. All right. Call in, phone. Yeah. All right. Okay, so Supervisor Smith, let's talk about the legacy, your greatest achievements, the things that you've achieved here as a supervisor. I mean, prior to being a supervisor, you were also the mayor of Maricopa. But let's focus on the county and what you think, you know, like if we had to say, what was your greatest accomplishment? What was your legacy? What would you say? Or what do you want it to be?
Well, I think when I really look at my 12 years, it's kind of, you know, this year brought to my memory about my time as mayor, in which I've been either the fortunate or the unfortunate guy to be in a leadership position during two national crises. First, the Great Recession and housing crisis during my time as mayor of the city of Maricopa, and now as the board chairman during the COVID-19 crisis. I think I've enjoyed working with this group of Board of Supervisors, but I think one of the things that really I brought to the board was my ability to plan and strategically think, lead both not only the city of Maricopa into their first strategic planning session and plans from there, but also I brought that early on to the county, and we get on the same page with the county manager and the staff, all using the same roadmap, and we've been we I think refreshed it once, maybe twice, but the planning and bringing a strategic view and a top-down view of where this county needs to go and getting us all on the same roadmap, I think, is what I contributed to the group.
Well, and I think it's pretty interesting to think that one person has been in such a leadership role over two of arguably the greatest crises of at least some of our lifetimes, the housing crisis and this coronavirus. So thank you for your leadership with all of that. Pretty remarkable. Maybe you should write a book about how to deal with crises. Okay, Supervisor Goodman, maybe we have your audio. So why don't you tell us, we'll just go back and give us a word that sort of characterizes you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, and we absolutely can, and you sound great. You sound great. It's worth the wait.
You know, I've been told I'm overbearing, but I like to use the word persistent.
Persistent is good. Persistent gets you somewhere. I always tell my kids that, so that's great. That's great. Persistence is good. All right, Vice Chair Rios, let's talk about your legacy, greatest accomplishments. And you served our state legislature in many leadership positions over the years before you came to our great Board of Supervisors. So your legacy is long and rich. But let's talk about what your thoughts are today.
Yeah, my political career spans over 40 years, so yeah, it goes for a long way. But I think mostly it's reliability in its constituent work. A lot of folk that get into elected office think that their job is primarily policy, and that is the most important thing. But additionally, it's working with people out in the hinterland that have trouble negotiating with and maneuvering through a lot of the red tape that government imposes. And I spend a lot of time in my career helping those people maneuver the system and navigate the system. But one of the most important things that I'm proud of is that in all my years, I have gone out of my way to involve young people, to bring people, young folk, especially high school, college kids, into the political process, to teach them and let them know what it's all about. And as I look back, I have a lot of young folk that were junior volunteers for Pete Rios for the state senate that are now in key positions in state government, local government, and colleges and universities. So I think I would want that to be my legacy, is that Pete Rios was tall enough to stoop down and help others come up to their greatest potential.
That's awesome. And I was thinking I might shed some tears on this call, because I love how all of you guys talk, and I want to be able to hear that for a long time here. Can you tell us your craziest constituent story? I mean, you are a real constituent oriented person, and maybe I should ask that to everybody if they want to, and I'll let you off the hook at this second. If you want to think about it, I can move on and come back to you.
Well, I can tell you one real quick. State Senate constituent, and they wanted to go on to Planned Parenthood I encouraged them to go to Planned Parenthood and go on some kind of family planning. And they gave them a referral card to go get pills. And so I asked the constituent later, a couple of weeks later, did you ever go? And she said, yes. I said, so you're on some kind of birth control? She said, yes, it's right here. I said, what do you mean it's right here? Well, they gave me this card, so I'm good. I'm not going to get pregnant anymore. I said, that's not the way it works. I said, you take that in and you get some pills. That's how birth control works. But she thought just because you have the card, and that's what I mean about helping constituents.
So you're a state senator slash healthcare advisor.
I was everything. Still am.
That's great. It's a good story. That's solid. All right. Supervisor House, let's hear about your legacy, greatest things that you feel that you've accomplished.
You know, I think it's kind of a couple of different things. One that comes into mind, I think I've been really approachable. I think I've been really well with the community. I think I've worked well with others. And I think that goes a long way in this kind of economic development and just the common community things that we got going on. We all got to get together at this level, at the county level. We all got to get together and work together to get things established and get things working. But I'm going to say that probably my legacy is going to be, and I think Tony Smith will probably share in on this too, is the open space and trails. That we were able to implement that plan, and we were able to start working with the parks that we're going to have in Pinal County, because I'm from a Northern California boy, and if you don't preserve the property, not long after that, it's going to be built on. And nothing against the developers, but we do have to have some open space. That's one of our big things, and that's what we're proud of here in Pinal County, is our open space and wide open opportunity. One of the craziest stories I can relate to is not soon after I became supervisor, I was called out to a couple of neighbors who were having a dispute over the property line. And so I went out there and, just drove out, and I noticed two guys sitting at the picnic table, and I said, okay, I'm going to go over there and join them. I noticed they both had guns on. And I said, well, guys, this could get a little debate. It could get a little hot here. Either lose the guns or give me one. I want to be able to defend myself. So I think that was the most kind of unique situation, and it all ended up being a real good situation in the end. But it was a little testy at the beginning.
That's pretty good. That's good, and not every county in America can have that story. So that, God bless Pinal County. I like that. That's awesome. That's awesome. Supervisor Smith, I skipped your crazy constituent or interesting constituent story. You want to tell one?
Well, I'll tag on to what Todd said regarding the open space and trails, but I really have to hand it to Pinal Partnership and the work that the committees did, kind of laying the groundwork. It really shows the value of the partnership that provides not only to the Board of Supervisors, but also a number of the mayor and city councils, et cetera. So kudos to the partnership for basically laying the groundwork and getting us into that space. Yes, when we competing for economic development, we're competing with Colorado, California, a lot of places that have very strong and very good open spaces. So this was very important for, I think, this Board of Supervisors to do and to provide that for the future generation. But my craziest constituent story really kind of has an adjustment to living out in the West. I'm originally from the Midwest, and it's kind of like Todd's, only mine was we got a call in the office that, and because there was a rustling problem, rustling cattle out in the Hidden Valley area. And one of the constituents called and said out in front of their house, they had a cow that had been, a steer that had been slaughtered, and the carcass was laying in the road. And so we said, well, Marlene called Public Works and got the right person, and they went out and cleaned up the mess, the carcass off of the road that from a cattle rustler had left it during the night. And the person came home and said, holy cow, I didn't think you would do it. I certainly thought that we would come home and we'd find that cow carcass out in the middle of the road again. And he called back and said how pleased he was that the county was doing a service like that and was being responsive. Now, that's just one story, but I guess if I quickly do another one, we got a call in, and this guy out in the Hidden Valley area again said, Supervisor, you got to do something about these tin whistles that are getting plugged up all the time. I said, tin whistles? What are you talking about? And so it's not too far away, so I drove a few miles down to see, met him along the road. And what he was talking about was the culvert pipes along the road. They were getting full of the mud and the muck and everything, but he referred to them as tin whistles.
That's awesome. Those are great. That's great. That's great. All right, Supervisor Goodman, why don't you talk to us a little bit about your legacy thus far, as you have many, many years to go and being reelected. What's your greatest accomplishment so far? Oh no, we can't hear him again. Okay, so we'll go to Supervisor Miller. And the good news is Supervisor Goodman will be with us, I think, in January potentially, and we'll have a better audio stream. Supervisor Miller. Oh,
okay, thank you.
Goodman. There he is. Okay, Supervisor Goodman, go ahead. Perfect.
Am I on now?
Yep, you're on. You are on.
All right. Sorry, Supervisor Miller. You're the oldest, so you're going to be last. As far as legacy, I'm not there yet. And so like the other gentleman, my other brethren that have served with us on the council, on the Board of Supervisors, and I really have appreciated serving with them. But for me, I think coming into this diversified area with the population that it's been, I would like my legacy to be the individual or was one of the main instruments in helping bring people together and uniting them in a common good to improve this area. And we're in the process of doing that. We've made some major improvements and things of that nature. One of the biggest things, a lot like Supervisor Rios, I've involved a lot of our youth in this area. We've had some major cleanups in various communities where people have actually gone in and thrown garbage and stuff. And so we've done a lot of those type of things. As far as the constituent, there is one particular story that's probably not as humorous, but early on when I first ran, and I met a gentleman who was a widower, and he helped me quite a bit in my campaign. He made a phone call to me. I invited people to call me. He called me, and he wanted to meet. He had a series of questions for me, and that's all it took. And it developed a relationship over the 2 or 3 year period to where he was actually a regular guest here in our home. Part of his legacy was that he'd kind of become distant with one of his sons because of some things that had transpired, and he'd asked that I be his executor and with his will and things of that nature. And so when we were having him over a year ago for Thanksgiving, and I went to pick him up, and long story short, he ended up going into the nursing home. So I called his son and I brought him into the situation. He didn't want his son to have anything to do with him, but over a 30-year span, they hadn't had any kind of relationship. And as a result of all that, his son ended up taking care of him during the latter years of his life and was able to reunite them together. And it was, that was a lot of comforting to me as an individual. And that's the kind of legacy that I would like to leave behind, is that Mike Goodman was a guy that didn't look at his own self-interest, but was looking out for the interests of others and making them a big part of making improvements and changes in our society, especially in our community.
That's beautiful, and that really is that epitomizes why you're there, and it's really cool. That's very, very cool. Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Miller, tell us about your funny constituent story, but also a legacy and things that you feel are so far your greatest accomplishment. Again, you're going to be serving us for many more years. So thanks for your service in the past and future.
Thank you, Jordan. I would tell you, I guess my legacy might go down as the guy that was able to get a dust monitor moved. I don't know how many people even remember the boondoggle we had in quote unquote Cowtown out there for years, and the heartache it was causing, and we still feel the remnants of the rulings from those readings out of that Cowtown. But to be told that, there's never been a monitor relocated ever by the federal government or by anybody, I felt like that was quite an accomplishment. So it didn't really net us anything, but I got it moved. So
well, it allowed for growth. Absolutely, it netted you a ton of stuff. So
so and some of the other, and probably maybe the less sexy and the thing that doesn't get the notice, and all five of us can share in this is the holding the budget crisis that we all hit shortly after we took office, and through those difficult times that the revenues had dropped off quite a bit, and we were able to still give even small amount of raises, but also just keep the county going in the right direction. So I think those are really good accomplishments. As far as the funny constituents, I don't know which one to start with, because I seem to well, one, I get animated a lot, so maybe that's that creates some of the fun. But I have to say, like supervisors, all of us, our doors are open to constituents. And I remember somebody wanting a meeting with me, and so I said, this was clear back in the beginning. I told Wanda, yeah, go ahead, set up the meeting. And so the lady comes in, sits down, and I said, how can I help you? And she goes, I've never been able to get in this office. So anyway, I said, well, it's open and you're welcome here anytime, and I'm willing to help you any way I can. She did visit me over the years, some different things. As Supervisor Rios said, I really feel like the accomplishments of helping people maneuver through the government system is probably one of the things that we do the most, and gets the least amount of attention, but the people know when we do it and they appreciate it. So I also enjoy that part of this job.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And you keep a cool looking decorated office. You can see all your cowboy hats back there. So I can see why she was excited.
You wonder where my roots are?
Awesome. All right. So I'm going to start with Chairman Smith and talk a little bit about not just some challenge that you've dealt with so far, but maybe also as an instruction, like you've all talked a little bit about mentoring younger people and other people, but how do you as a leader deal with challenges? And because you've all done that with such poise, and you certainly had a lot of challenges, but maybe you could talk about the most challenging thing you've dealt with so far, and maybe how you just deal with challenges in general.
Well, that's a great question. I think it really is by defining the problem first and looking for what the root cause is. Oftentimes we chase after rabbits all the time, trying to find this or that. But if you really don't define what the problem is, then you'll never solve it. But I think one of the greatest accomplishments this board did this year, and it put some political skin out there, and I don't know how we will fare in the long run, but we lobbied the government, and the governor in particular, lobbied the governor for Pinal's portion of the CARES Act money. And that was at maybe, like I said, we expended a lot of political capital in order to do that. But here, that money was, the CARES Act money was given to the 2 largest counties and then 3 cities and all the other small counties, and the communities within Pinal County and across the state was basically left high and dry. I know many of the communities in Pinal and others lobbied also, but we met as a board of supervisors and we lobbied hard. We passed letters basically that gave me authorization in order to write a letter directly to the governor, and again we lobbied it. But when we got the governor to release the money, we didn't hold on to it like a number of the other local governments did. I think we distributed the money, and Supervisor Goodman was kind of the point on this. Within a week, or maybe less than a week, we started getting that money. And that was probably, to me, the single greatest accomplishment for this year, because it was, if we didn't act and take firm action very quickly, we thought we were going to lose a lot of our small businesses. And that is, we would really pay for that in years to come. So I think that was kind of the single greatest, most impactful thing that we did for 2020.
That's great. And I see in the chat, the Bryant Powell from Apache Junction is thanking you for that. He said it's helped our small businesses quite a bit. So thank you, everybody. Everyone is certainly thanking you. Vice Chair Rios, talk to us about how you deal with challenges and your biggest challenge.
One of the biggest challenges is every 10 years, we go through the decennial census. After we count heads, we then go through reapportionment and redistricting. We do it at the county level. The board will do that, but it's at a much smaller scale. We used to do it in the legislature at a bigger scale for congressional and legislative districts. And that is probably one of the most politically involved processes of anything in elected office. At the time that I started doing redistricting, we did it ourselves in the legislature. Since then, the voters have voted in the independent redistricting committee. So now 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and a chairperson that's an independent, they brought it in. And that was someone's attempt to try to take politics out of the process. That is such a big joke. You never take politics out of that process. That is one of the most political processes still, working through the independent redistricting. But at the end of the day, when we did it ourselves at the legislature, and I happen to have been president of the Senate, every single change in the boundary lines came before me. We want to move this neighborhood here. We want to move this census tract over there. And what does that do to the numbers? What does that do to B versus R? What does that do to minorities in the district? That I would have nightmares at night. I would dream boundary lines. So when you talk about challenges, I would have to say that redistricting and reapportionment is one of the most challenging things that anybody could ever do. And at the end of the process, I'm glad in some respects that I won't be doing it again anytime in the near future. Doesn't mean I won't get re-involved again and maybe do it some other point, but as far as the county legislative redistricting, it's up to the 5 new members to draw those lines. So they can have little nightmares and think about the boundaries.
That is really well stated, and it has to be the most political thing you could possibly do is draw district lines. So I've always admired your ability to reach across party lines and just disagreements and try to moderate success, and you've always found a way to get it done, and that's just super impressive. So I can see why you would be good at that. The redistricting. Supervisor House, biggest challenge and how you deal with challenges.
Well, you know, I think the biggest challenge that I've had in the 8 years is definitely this COVID-19. It's definitely took a huge toll in our area with the businesses being shut down, and there's people that are absolutely afraid of leaving their houses. They're afraid of going to the stores. That it's caused a lot of problems in our area, and there's a lot of strife in each family. I noticed that, you know, the families are people I talk to, you know, they're having problems with their relationships. They're boxed in. They're tired. They're you know, they want to get out. They want a regular life. We lost a lot of people in the Apache Junction area to COVID, especially seniors. And that to me is tragic. When you lose lives, it makes it feel very helpless in trying to stop this COVID-19 outbreak and what's going on. Wearing a different hat in the fire district. I'm still the chairman of the fire board up here, and we've had firefighters that have been hospitalized with COVID, and it just these young strong people have to go to the hospitals and rehab, and then they're out for 2 weeks, and who knows who they passed it on to. So definitely the most challenging and difficult thing I've had to deal with in the 8 years is the COVID situation. I think we can get past this. I'm really hopeful about the vaccines coming forward. I just wish there were more accurate information, medical information out there that we could you know, work our lives around and figure out what we're doing. And, you know, before I forget and before I don't get another chance, I'd like to thank all the 4 other Board of Supervisors for working together well. We had our disagreements over the years, and we've had our political, you know, disagreements. But, you know, I think all 5 of the Board of Supervisors really had the heart of Pinal County at heart. I think we really wanted to try and do what was best for the county. Ultimately, that's what it always happened to. You know, we would have our little spiffs, but I think what it boiled down to is we were able to come together and for the county and make things happen. And before I lose my opportunity, I just wanted to thank the other Board of Supervisors.
That's great. And maybe I'll continue that love fest a little bit after this finishing up this question, and ask each of you to say something, just like a sentence, you know, complimentary about one of the other members. And I'd like you to pick the member that you've disagreed with the most, if you can. And if you can't, then you can go ahead and say something about the one that you agree with the most. But either way, okay. So let's go to Supervisor Goodman and talk about the most challenging thing you've dealt with, and maybe we can guess what that is. 3 guesses.
Audio.
Yep, you're mute. Unmute yourself.
This is challenge.
Nope, almost. I think you got a couple different devices, so you probably got a lot of figuring it out there. Okay, so while he unmutes, let's talk to Supervisor Miller. What do you got?
Okay, I've been worried about Goodman. What was the question?
Challenges.
Challenges,
Yeah,
you know,
how do you deal with it? What's the biggest
how do you deal with it? Boy, I tell you, I've had my share of challenges, similar to Supervisor Smith. Of course, I was on the city council. I've been at this for 17 years now, and through the city council in 2008, 2010, boondoggle, and then coming over to the county, we've dealt with in this pandemic, and who knows what the next thing will be. I mean, I seriously, I just think some days they say, you know, what are you going to do? And I don't know until the day's over what we're going to do, because we don't know what's coming down the pike. And it can be challenging in that respect, that we get curveballs thrown at us constantly. Some are more difficult to deal with than others. So you got to stay flexible and be able to maneuver through those issues. So you know, I see and this probably goes to some of the other questions later. I mean, we have our challenges with water and transportation. I think are 2 elephants in the room. We don't have just one, we got 2, and we're going to have to deal with those challenges going forward. But just do the best you can. And And remember what your role is to represent your constituents, and look at it like that. Was there more to the question?
No, that was it. That was it. That was a good
Okay.
answer. Solid answer. Very good. All right, Supervisor Goodman, challenges. What's your biggest one?
Am I there now?
You are there.
Okay. Well, we already found my biggest challenge right now, then, so I apologize. No, I think the population size of this particular area is probably, and the infrastructure issues that we've had over the, as a result of the size of the population has been the biggest challenge for me up till COVID hit. And I would go along with what Supervisor Smith and Rios and Supervisor House have all said. That's been one that's weighed a lot on me. And how do I approach challenges? I often start on my knees first. And there's a lot higher source than myself when it comes to wisdom, and then do the research like Supervisor Smith recommended and what he's talked about doing. There's a lot of people out there that are hurting. The thing that's been really comforting to me as I've gone out and talked to some of our businesses about the CARE Act funds, I've had several say to me, we don't need it. We have savings. Give it to the individuals, the companies that need the help. And that was amazing to me that we have that kind of people here in my particular community. And I think we probably experience that throughout the entire county, of various businesses that were willing to forego that opportunity and say, no, give it to somebody else that's more in need. And that's one thing that's been pretty revealing to me, is that there's that kind of respect for these type of programs that are out there. And so that's really good about a lot of our small businesses. Then on the other side, there's been a lot of businesses that have needed that assistance and that help, and that's what those funds were there available for. So yeah, and the good news is because of everybody coming together and a lot of the people in this particular area, those challenges that we've been facing, we're handling, we're dealing with them, and so they're getting solved and resolved. And so, but yeah, that's for me, that's one of our biggest challenges is that COVID, and I really am proud of our board and everything that we've done as a whole, the five of us, and how we've become unified to do that. That's why COVID came, was to help unify us.
Well, that is a wonderful thing to say. It certainly has helped unify you. And let's talk about, we're going to go down the horn on the say something nice, but we're doing sort of a lightning round on this one. So say something complimentary about someone else on the board. Chairman Smith.
Supervisor House, I appreciate the time in which we connected at County Supervisor Association as it lobbied the state government, and also our travels to Washington, D.C., lobbying on the federal. I think a lot of folks don't understand the breadth of what county supervisors can do as far as being influential. And as I mentioned, the County Supervisor Association, and then the work that we set our legislative agenda, and we used our federal lobbyists, and we took many trips to DC in conjunction with the NACO conference. But I appreciated your working with me as a team member. I thought we were very effective in our congressmen's and our senators' offices, playing off of the stories that we basically told and laying out the case for Pinal County.
Thank you for that. I heard you guys were really a good team out there on the Hill. Vice Chair Rios, something nice.
Two quick statements. I thank my board members, and that would include previous board member Cheryl Chase, for realizing that these positions on the Board of Supervisors are really nonpartisan. We are there to serve our constituency and do the best that we can for economic development and bringing jobs to Pinal County. And I think all 5 of us worked well towards those goals. And Cheryl Chase, when she was there previously, did as well. One additional comment is what I'm going to miss about being on the Board of Supervisors is giving my colleagues a hard time on parliamentary procedure and Robert's Rules of Order because they don't know them and they need to learn it. And I would encourage those of you coming back to really sharpen up your pencil on those issues because that's how you run meetings and that's how you get things done. But I love you all.
That's good. You could be an advisor to boards on parliamentary procedure for sure. You're really strong.
They can't afford me.
Right. That's good. Supervisor House.
Yeah, kudos go out for Tony. We've become good friends over the years and our travels, and I've enjoyed your company and a couple of pints of beer here and there wherever we were at. Most of all, I'll miss the camaraderie between us and having all those wonderful things. But you have your bucket list, and I think I have some time on my hands, so I think we might be able to work together and work on some of your bucket list. But one of the things that I don't know if everybody knows, my dad was a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. for 30 years. I've been in politics my whole life, whether I knew it or not. I've kind of had to evolve and adjust and know that. And I would just like to reach out to Supervisor Rios and say, we've had some really good conversations about the difference between Republicans and Democrats. But in the end of the day, we both sat down and figured out what was the best for our county going forward. And we both formed a really good relationship to trust in each other that what we were looking for, we were able to accomplish. And I think that was something that's pretty unique for our group. And I'm really proud that we were able to get a lot of things accomplished.
Absolutely.
Amen. You really did. You really did. Supervisor Goodman. Something nice.
I think to go along with a lot of the sentiment there, I really believe that all 5 of us have the best interests all along for the county as a whole. We've just had different approaches to getting there. And so, working through those approaches was a pretty good experience for me, to be honest with you. I know when I came into this position, my older brother, who's the Justice of the Peace over in Maricopa County, and my father also was a Justice of the Peace years and years ago. They both talked highly of Supervisor Rios and told me pretty much, pay attention and don't get in an argument with him because he'll eat your lunch. And when it comes to politics and, like he said, parliamentary, the procedures, the rules of Roberts, and I think that was directed towards me on my needs to be able to become better educated. And so yes. I will take that advice, Supervisor Rios, and I hope my assistants are listening and start getting the information so that we can start educating me in that process. But to all of them, I've had a great opportunity of learning to get to know them and their personalities and the experience I've had there. I look forward to the new board and working again with Steve Miller as we move forward. Thank you.
That's great. That's great. Supervisor Miller, what do you know?
I don't know anything. So no. I guess, the last guy out can't hardly come up with an original thought because of all the things that I was thinking have just been said. But I really have been fortunate, not only in my city council life, but with the Board of Supervisors. We can disagree on a vote. We'll vote differently on an issue, and 5 minutes later we're telling each other a joke or being able to, we're able to put that behind us. We know that, we know our role as supervisors. We all understand that we're all just human beings, and I really appreciate the camaraderie and friendship that has developed over the last 8 years, and along with Cheryl Chase as well, because she was a part of some of that solution making in the early years, the first 4 years. And so anyway, I mean, I just really, sometimes I think I'm rubbing off on Supervisor Rios. He may turn into a conservative before it's all said and done. And to that point, we all understand that we have to get things done. And with that being said, we were able to work together over the last 8 years and have things happen. So anyway, and thank you guys. I mean, I do appreciate the friendship of everybody, including Cheryl Chase, because she served on the Farm Bureau board with me for a while as well. So I was able to stay a little bit in contact with her. So anyway.
Yeah, you guys have done a remarkable job of accomplishing big things and getting along. Okay, so I'm going to do, unfortunately, our time gets short. So I'm going to say 2 minutes each, and I'm going to give you 3 thoughts, and you can answer whatever you want, right? So it's, what are you accomplishing over the next several years? What are you going to do? Or what do you hope will be seen through over the next years if you're leaving? And then what will you miss the most? Okay, so you can answer any of those, but we're gonna run through these. So Chairman Smith.
Well, I think the thing that is a must to be accomplished, and we got to continue rallying around, as we know, the Pinal County RTA won in the Court of Appeals and will be heard in the Supreme Court in December. But assuming that that gets approved, or that we are victorious on that, there's a lot of work building out a transportation network for the next 20 years. If it's not successful, there's a lot of work in being able to come up with an alternative plan. We can't really take confidence that the federal government or even the state government is going to help us. And that was where we were 4 years ago when this board decided to go forward with our transportation plan, creating the RTA. I wish we would be into the construction phase right now. It's been a major disappointment. I had hoped to have seen it accomplished by the time I left office, that we would have a finality on that, but it's not. What I'm going to do going forward, a lot of you, I've shared a bucket list of fun and adventure, and it's revolves around a lot of travel, accomplishing things that are physical, such as hiking the Arizona Trail is one of them. I want to visit the Civil War battle sites. I want to go to the Hall of Fame for baseball and football. I want to go to the 2028 Summer Olympics in LA, visit all the national parks. I've got just a whole list of things that I think that fortunately, or if health holds up for myself and Nancy, that we will be able to accomplish. And not to say that I won't come back someday, but I am going to take an advantage of my good health, and I just hope I'm able to travel with all this COVID stuff and overcome those challenges.
Well, God bless you, and will you guys adopt me and take me with you? That sounds awesome. Vice Chair Rios, what do you got?
A couple of points. I think what I would like to see over the next few years in the future is diversification in Eastern Pinal County for economic development, from Superior to Kearney, through Mammoth, through Seminole, through Oracle. I mean, we have a lot of copper mining still. We have ecotourism, but we need to continue to try to diversify. And having only one state route in and out, ingress and egress, handicaps the area. So my hope is ADOT and Pinal County can help develop a route through that area for purposes of diversification. And secondly, on what am I going to do the next few years? Well, I can tell you what I'm going to do the next few months. the honey-do list gets pretty darn long over 40 years. So I got to focus on that one for the next few months and then decide what my future will hold. So with that, I thank you all very, very much.
We can't wait to see what you do next. We know it will be amazing. And I'm sure the honey-do list will also be very, very well accomplished and appreciated by your family. So Supervisor House.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, I agree with Tony. The RTA is something that I'd really love to see continue through and get accomplished, because transportation is one of the essential things for economic development, and we need to have those transportation corridors opened up. And hopefully in the next couple of years, that will be something that can get accomplished in Pinal County. And we're looking forward to being able to drive around the county with ease. And I think it's going to happen. As far as the future goes, I know personally myself, I've never been retired. I've worked my entire life. I'm going to take a couple months off and go back to my old haunts in Northern California and up in Oregon where I was born, and revisit family and kind of connect a little bit. But I'm coming back. One door closes, another door opens. Watch for me. I'll be around in Pinal County. I will. I'm not going away. I've had a lot of people come forward asking me to take a different kind of role going forward. And I think that opportunity is still there, and I'm still young enough. So I hope to be around. I hope to still be influential and still help out wherever I can. I did reach out to several people and I said, look, just because my role as supervisor ends in January doesn't mean that if you want to call me and if you think that I can be effective in helping anybody get forward and make things happen in Pinal County, I'm more than happy to jump in and help out wherever I can, even though I'm not in office. Because that's just the character that was built in me from all these years. And I too would like to just say it was a great responsibility, and I was just so privileged to be the supervisor for 8 years. And I'm humbled by it, and I think that hopefully I can do something great in the future for Pinal County in a different role.
As we know you well, Supervisor House, we absolutely know you well. Supervisor Miller and Goodman, I know we're running short on time. Maybe you can just give us a 30-second of one of those things. And I know we're going to have a full breakfast with the full new board in January, which of course will include you two as the veteran leaders. So Supervisor Goodman?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. All right, I've overcome that challenge, so I appreciate it. I think the three previous my fellow supervisors have already spoke something that we need to carry on what has already began, and that is the infrastructure is a big issue for a lot of us in the county, particularly on this in this particular area. With our lack of retail or even commercial type industry over on this side, where a lot of our workforce is something that we need to move forward to. And so straight out, I'm grateful for the 4 other individuals that work with me and the 3 that are leaving, their experience that they brought and the things that I've learned from them, as well as my predecessor. I know Steve has mentioned her several times, and that's Cheryl Chase. Cheryl did a pretty good job prior to me, and so in her years of service that she's given over the years. But the 5 of my previous have set things in motion, and I want to just continue that forward. So thank you, gentlemen, and I appreciate everything that you've done and the examples that you've been to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Miller?
Well, real quick. Of course, transportation, I touched on it earlier. I agree with my colleagues all the way. Hopefully we'll get through the Supreme Court and we will prevail, because we have been transportationally challenged for well over a decade. So anyway, hopeful. Of course, and then I have sitting in my lap the water issue, which continues, and at some point I'll be able to give you a better report on that. And on a personal level, as far as my life is going to change, my wife is retiring after 30 years. So.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. That's
So
amazing.
I don't know what that honeydew list is going to look like. So,
Maybe it'll be a
anyway.
reverse honeydew list there.
Oh, it will be. And for all of those that know her, she is Basque and has that work ethic that is hard to keep up with. But anyway, I'm very proud of her and look forward to a new phase in our relationship because she'll be a lot closer and barking more orders. And everybody wants to know, how do you know how to vote on this stuff? I said, I get told when I'm shaving in the morning how I'm going to vote. So anyway, it's all good. It's all good.
So now we've all learned the secret. Go talk.
Go talk to Lori.
That's right. Well, I know all the notes in the comment chat are coming in saying thank you, and we can't thank you enough. And for those three that are going to leave us to serve other roles in Pinal County, I'm certain we're honored to have had your service, and it makes me sad to say goodbye. I kind of want this thing to keep going and going. So I do want to introduce just quickly so you can see them. Two of the three new supervisors are on the line here, and that's Mayor, incoming Supervisor Jeff Surtee from Apache Junction, and so he can wave here and look. Everybody can meet. We're going to meet the new supervisor in January. We're going to dedicate a whole breakfast to the supervisors and some economic development, and then also. Incoming Supervisor McClure, why don't you wave? And you've been on the line here, and I know we've seen you in many of these before. So we're excited to get to work with both of you. Incoming Supervisor Kavanaugh is not able to join us today, but we'll look forward to meeting him too. But for today, we just want to say thank you so much, especially to the three of you who are outgoing for so many great things. You guys are great leaders and you're great men, and we're just all lucky to have been blessed with knowing you and having you serve in a leadership role in Pinal County. So thank you.
Thank
Let's
you.
have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Adios.